Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel for Temblador Pyrography and Woodwork. We're going to be working on a set of coasters now from, I do not remember the characters' names. I am not an anime guy, so all I know is that it's two characters from My Hero Academia. I'm going to go through the outlining process with you, fast forward through most of it, and then we're gonna go through the shading together. One thing is, like I mentioned in my first videos, I have a neurological condition, amongst other stuff, and well, my tremors have really uh, hit within the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 days, and they've just steadily gotten worse. So I wanted to hold off on the recording. I did the outlining and I don't think they had hit yet, so they're definitely here now, and I just wanted to hold off on the recording for a little bit. But then again, I thought back to my first video, and what I wanted to focus on was defeating, or there's my stutter, moving forward through your limitations or perceived limitations. And I wanted to show that, and that, I do create all these beautiful pieces of art, and I have issues that I fight, fight through every day, when I'm working. And you're gonna see a little jittering and maybe a few mistakes, but like I said before, the mark of a true artist is being able to cover up your mistakes. So bear with me. I wanted to hold off on it, but then I thought, what the hell? We're here to learn how to wood burn, or at least work through the process together, see how I do things. But also, I want to reach out to people. I want to send a message that, depression doesn't have to beat you, and neither does your diagnosis. You can work through things, and you just gotta find your way. You gotta find assistive devices if need be. Don't be too proud. Do not be too proud. If it wasn't for that, and if it was for pride, I'd still be, I don't know where the hell I'd be actually. I'm perfectly fine using my canes and walkers and wheelchairs when I need it. But don't be too proud to show the real you. Don't be. Fight on. Say bye. All right, everyone. So what we're gonna have to do here is, we start off with our outline, all done and ready to go. Right, I have all 4 pieces ready to burn, or at least we're gonna start with outlines. I'm trying to give you a good enough view of it without the glare because of the lights. I do need the lights to burn, and I recommend as much light as possible when you're doing this. I had to redraw quite a bit of the line work because it just was not showing up enough, and I want you guys to be able to see what I'm going to burn. So one thing I cannot stress enough is not over burning, when you're starting out your first burn. You don't want to, especially since this is what I've never worked with personally. You don't want to start off with a higher set temp, like, oh, I'm used to working at this temperature or that temperature, and I'm going to start off at that as a safe temperature. There is no safe temperature when you are putting your name on a piece of work that you're going to send to someone else. I want to emphasize that. Okay. I started out at 2, and I worked up to about maybe, I'd say, maybe 2 2/3 now, all the way up
on this maple, and I'm thinking I'm going to stick right around there to where I get these lines. I started with this little test burn here, these little lines down here, and then, worked my way up on the temp and just kept them coming up here. So I'm thinking 2.6-ish. Here we go. Another thing I want to just mention is how prepping your wood is the most important thing. You want to keep that in mind, guys. The most important thing before you get to your work is the prep. And, most people like to recommend, certain sanding grits to stop at when you're prepping a piece. And the magic number out there online is 320, and 320 is nice. I go to 500 personally because you definitely feel it when you're burning on the surface of a supremely sanded piece of wood, as opposed to 320 is still pretty good. Don't get me wrong, 320's up there, but 500 to me just was always more like, now you're cooking with Crisco type stuff, like you feel the iron gliding more or less across the surface of the wood, and that is what you're going for. You want as least resistance as possible on your burning equipment, because that's, what are you doing? You're wood burning, right? So you want to make things as easy on your tools as possible, and that will make it easy on you. And the final little tidbit of information is, if you sand, and I'm not talking like just sanding, right? You're getting in there and you're putting some elbow grease in there, and it looks nice and you call it good, and you still see some imperfections. And I know you guys are looking at this and going, oh, what's all that stuff there? These are natural, now I'm forgetting the term, but that is what you're going to see in the wood naturally. These little, it's not that I didn't sand correctly. When you quarter saw or cross cut these into boards, that's what's going to give the wood, on top of the grain, the figure that people are all about nowadays. Is, oh, the wood, the grain, and la-di-da, and blase, and oh, move the camera. See, I'm still getting used to this, people. Just remember, as soft as you can, like a baby booty, as soft as you can be, and this thing will just glide over the surface of this. Another thing I want to emphasize enough is I have an issue with this, considering my tremors and everything, and that is line weight. That is the one thing I learned in college that just really stresses here, especially since you're working with something that's in the several hundreds of degrees, and occasionally I know a couple of my other handhelds were capable of burning in the about 11 to 1200 degrees. So these things get super hot, and they are capable of just going right through this wood. And one thing, so you want your temperatures low for that reason, or not low because you want to make a mark, but lower. But line weight, so you're not making these indentations. And it just, when you put your finish on here, you're going to see all that stuff. And that's another thing that gets me back to your prep. And I'm sorry, I kind of go everywhere. The more time you spend on your prep means the less time you spend on your finish. So if you sanded this thing down, immaculately, baby booty soft, you might hear me say that quite a bit. When you get this thing down, that means you're going to have a higher probability of getting a beautiful finish on there. And in the end, when you're done with your burn and you're going to send this off to a customer, in the end, that finish is what's going to make or break your piece. Because if you could put the best work on there and if it looks like crap because you were lazy in the sanding, then, well, you just turned in a piece of crap to your customer. That's going to be a little thing we're going to have to combat together, right? I have a neuropathy thing and pain, so, one of these days, if you notice, you'll get a good look at my my hands, and like that big one there, they're riddled and with cuts and stuff, and I don't feel a lot of stuff when it happens initially. And yes, I have burned myself with this thing, and it's kind of I was gonna say it's kind of neat. It is kind of weird when you smell yourself cooking first, or sometimes you don't even feel yourself cooking. You're just like, oh, that ain't right. Mesquite doesn't smell this way. And oh, by the way, this is maple. And I know I mentioned it earlier in another video that I was talking about Janka scales and me not knowing where red maple was, particularly on the Janka scale. Maple is, was it 950 or 910? 910. 910. And basswood, which is another one of those woods that you can get at, Hobby Lobby, Michael's, if you want to do this stuff, which is a pretty decent wood to start on also. I'm not going to knock basswood. It is at 410 or 450. I'm getting those 10s and 50s mixed up. It is the softest hardwood out there. Basically, is what how I can explain it. And so red maple, this particular species that I'm working on, is at 910 or 950. And just to give you an idea, the mesquite that I normally work on, and I'll just show you a little piece of mesquite that I have here for funsies. This little piece right here is rated 2300, over 2300. I'm forgetting the exact number. Over 2300 on the Janka scale. So much, much harder specimen. And here I usually keep stuff laying around, so this is a piece of basswood. As you can see, there's not a lot of grain pattern to it either. It's kind of, you could almost make people wonder if it's actually, wood or just, someone's attempt at playing with Play-Doh or, making a sculpture and stuff like that. And I do have rock maple here. And rock maple is at like 1400 on the Janky scale. And then this is Purple Heart. And Purple Heart has got to be like way higher than Mesquite, because, you know, to work on this was, you know, I love the way it looks. Look at that. I mean, you can't argue that, right? It's impossible to work with almost. You know, look at those chips. You know, it's so hard, it's brittle, it chips, and it's so hard. Your plane blades, I mean, you're sharpening plane blades all day. You know, so just remember what you're working on. Make it look pretty. And temperature. All right, and just so you know, I'm going to take a few breaks. It's just going to be one of those things. When I do that, I will pause the video, and then we'll come back and pick up. So, seeing as you wouldn't think it, but holding that piece of wood takes it out of my hands. And then with this wood burner, I did have to modify it a bit to make the grip a little more easier to work with in terms of, you know, needing an assistive device. And well, you know, sometimes it's easier to just make stuff than go buy stuff. So I just went out and got this you know, that stuff they use at the labs when they take blood. Well, yeah, I've had blood taken a lot recently, so I went and got some of that tape that they put on you now, and there you go. You know, I wrapped a couple t-shirts around the gun, you know, to actually this has, yeah, it's a couple t-shirts. So, you know, guys, you know, those of you out there who are struggling with hand issues, carpal tunnel or whatever, and you want to get into this, it's not something that, you know, you can use the excuse of having pain to not do it, you know, because there are, you know, assistive devices out there. I mean, if you couldn't walk, would you be too proud to use a walker, you know? I mean, or a wheelchair? So you got to just think of it that way. The only shackles and chains on your creativity are your own, you know, fears. And I was struggling with that for a while, and here I am recording these videos for you guys. So, you know, do what you love to do. You know, if it's creating with painting, you know, paint. Find ways to do it, you know. Never, ever lose what you know, never lose without a fight what you love to do. And I think after I'm done with these fingers here, my hand is barking at me. I'm gonna take a break. So, break number 1 coming. Here, real short. Just gotta finish these lines. I know I lie a lot too. I say when I finish these fingers, and then I find another line I want to do. So it's just, I love doing this, guys. I love doing this. So, all right. The hand is done. Break time.